The Jets' first unofficial depth chart of training camp has been released, and we've got overreactions. Plus, it's Jets preseason week, baby. Boy Green Daily starts now.
I'm going to lose my gosh darn bananas. Boy Green Daily starts now. Zoinks!
Boy Green Daily, Boy Green Daily, Boy Green Daily. Let's go!
Put your seatbelts on. Get ready for the ride. We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Paul Eston Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. Welcome to Boy Green Daily, a daily New York Jets video show, also available wherever you get your podcast. If you guys are watching on YouTube, make sure you guys like the video, hit subscribe. We're about 150 subscribers away from 8,000, believe it or not, as we keep going higher and higher. And by the way, once we reach 8,000, we'll be giving away this autographed Mike White photo right here on the program. To one of those 8,000 subscribers, we'll be giving away this autographed Mike White photo. Shout out to our boy Joey Matesic, who shared a lot of gifts with me, a lot of gifts. And here's his card, Joey Matesic. He shared a lot of gifts with me and sent them in along with this awesome poison photo that's behind me. We'll have to find a way to get that on screen. JoeyMatesic.com, Joey Matesic _artist, Joey Matesic, Facebook, Joey Matesic artist on YouTube. He sent me a bunch of cool Jets autograph memorabilia. And while I could keep it all for myself like a selfish bastard, and I have considered it, I'm not going to lie, but ultimately, I thought it'd be cool to share it out with the Boy Green Coffee Club in the universe. So we'll give that away once we reach 8,000 subscribers, which, like I said, we're about 150 away from. So once we reach mile markers in our chase to 10,000, we'll keep doing giveaways. And again, those specific giveaways will be free. The giveaways that we do every month will not go away, baby. Those will continue to pop up here on the gosh darn program, which I'm super excited about. And that is right here. Let me throw this up on the big board so you guys can see what you're competing for this month. Let's see what you guys are dealing with. It is right here on the program. Throw it up there. The Super Bowl 3 game coin that is flashed with 24 karat gold. There's that New York Jets logo Athletic Prime hoodie t-shirt. Plus, I'll throw in a random vintage Jets player t-shirt from yesteryear. A blast from the past, if you will. All you have to do to be eligible for this giveaway, which we'll be drawing on September 1st, is spend $3 on the channel. If you spend $3 on the channel, again, it could be gifting a membership. That's how much memberships are. They're $2.99. Could be a super chat, what have you. This will go to one lucky person on September 1st. And speaking of revealing things of that nature, before we get to the unofficial Jet step chart, which we have an article in the YouTube description down below for, folks, you'll see it if you're watching on YouTube. There's a goal. Every once in a while, you can put goals on the screen and say, hey, once you guys reach this, we'll do this. I will tell you that let's play a little sounder for this, okay? Let's play a little sounder for this, okay? We've been teasing it for a while that we have our big tailgate coming up. Of course, Jets Cowboys Week 5, Sunday, October 5th, and Chef Kevin Gilbert is handling the menu, all the wonderful items that are going to be on the menu. And you guys have heard me describe them. But if you'd like to see them, Chef Kevin Gilbert yesterday gave me some videos of the food. He did. He gave me some pictures of the food, and we have them ready to go. But to reveal them, we're going to need 5 super chats on the show today of $5 or more. So if 5 people step up or one person steps up aggressively, if we get 5 super chats today of $5 or more each, we will reveal that on the show today, and includes several items that I think you guys will be interested in. And then once we reveal it, we'll continue to say it. Take the like button to Pound Town, as my pop says. And he said, did you say pop? And Pop's special item on the menu could also be revealed today. Potentially. Again, if we get 5 super chats today, we'll keep you posted on that. All right, everybody, let's get into it. The unofficial Jets depth chart. Now, before we say anything with the depth chart, this sort of obviously has to be said. The Jets have their first preseason game this week. It'll be on Saturday against the Green Bay Packers. Very much looking forward to that. That's going to be a lot of fun to get a real game action and be able to react to it and give you all the pertinent details from it, of course. But this is an unofficial depth chart. There's still 3 preseason games to go. So everything I'm going to say should be taken with somewhat of a grain of salt. I still think there are takeaways to be had. It's sort of a temperature check, if that's the right way to describe it, of where things currently stand in a variety of competitions. So it's not official. This is not the week 1 starting depth chart. Okay. We still got 5 weeks until we get to the Jets-Steelers season opener. So there's still time. So again, let's not overreact to this, but we should talk about it. And there's several things to get involved with here. And let's go through. I think the first one a lot of people are going to get to is we look at this unofficial depth chart is the starting tight end for the New York Jets is Jeremy Ruckert. No, not Mason Taylor. Is Jeremy Ruckert is the starting tight end for the New York Jets on the unofficial depth chart. Mason's going to have to earn it. Now, we all anticipate Mason will clearly earn it. He can catch a football. We'll see how he is as a blocker as we continue to go through this process. Jeremy Ruckert has taken on an Andrew Beckish role, if you will, where he could play a little fullback, a little tight end. The Jets made that conversion this offseason, according to longtime NFL fullback Tony Richardson, who's been working with Jeremy Ruckert, but he's playing a little bit of fullback too. So, Jeremy Ruckert is serving in a couple of different roles here on the team. Now, interestingly, on the depth chart, Andrew Beck is the only fullback listed. So Jeremy Ruckert isn't even listed as a backup there. But, so we'll kind of keep an eye on that. Maybe it's because Jeremy Ruckert's starting. I'm not sure. But Jeremy Ruckert starting off the unofficial depth chart as a starter. And I would just say this. As we're sort of going through this piece by piece by piece, as we talk about this, I think Jeremy Ruckert's making this roster. And I think it's pretty clear he's making this roster to me. I don't think he's going to be starting tight end week 1 against the Steelers. I don't think that. But it feels like his floor is tight end 2. Like Stone Smart ain't taking his job. Zach Kuntz ain't taking his job. Neil Johnson ain't taking his job. And I'm obviously, if you've listened to the show, watch the show, anything, I'm not the biggest Jeremy Ruckert fan. I was when he was drafted, but results have led me to a different direction. So, Jeremy Ruckert starting initially, which means Mason Taylor is going to have to earn it. Mason Taylor is starting this week on the bench. Yeah. He's starting this week on the bench. He's got to earn his way to that tight end 1 role. We'll see if he gets there. Speaking of rookies, Armand Membu, you're starting right tackle at this point. Currently beating out Chukwuma Okorafor, my boy. I like Chukwuma a lot. Armand Membu is penciled in as a starter at this point on this unofficial Jets depth chart, which is not surprising. Not surprising at all. But so Armand Membu's there. And I would say he's probably the weakest point. He is the weakest point of the eye. Like, wow. Think about how good this offensive line is. At the 7th overall pick comes in here, and he's the weakest part of the group because you got Olu Fashanu, John Simpson, Joe Tippmann, Elijah Tucker, and Armand Membu. And because we naturally just got there with Joe Tippmann, there's been a lot of hoopla about, who's going to be the starting center on this team? Who's going to be the starting center? Is it going to be Josh Myers? Is it going to be Joe Tippmann? Well, the first unofficial depth chart gave us a sneak peek into this, and Joe Tippmann leads the pack as the gods intended. That's what we all assumed was going to happen here. But there's been a lot of whispers, a lot of Darren Mucci comments, a lot of Aaron Glenn comments, a lot of beat reporter comments who are there at Jets training camp. We'll hear from a Jets beat reporter at 8 o'clock. Nick Faria of JetsXFactor.com joins us. He had 5 takeaways from the Jets unofficial depth chart being released. We'll get into his takeaways coming up in about 20 minutes on the show. So keep that in mind. We'll hear from one of them. But as we heard from Jets beat reporters, basically it seemed to indicate that Tippmann and Myers have been splitting time with the ones as the starting center. You're like, wait a second here. Is Joe Tippmann not going to be the starting center week 1? But it seems like he is, at least at this point. So early lead there for Joe Tippmann, which, again, should not be surprising. Garrett Wilson's immediate backup at wide receiver is Malachi Corley. Hey, now. Whoa. Is Malachi Corley making some noise? Now, it should also be noted the Jets have 3 starting wide receivers. They are Alan Lazard, Josh Reynolds, and Garrett Wilson. And here are their immediate backups at each of those positions. Garrett Wilson's backup, second string, is Malachi Corley. Alan Lazard's second string is Xavier Gibson. And then Josh Reynolds' second string is Tyler Johnson. So those are it. For Corley, the message is simple. You just got to kill it in the preseason. Make some plays. Certainly in training camp as well, but Preseason, when the lights are on, making some action. That's what I'll be excited about. We'll talk about when we get closer to the preseason game this week of like, ooh, what are the things you're looking out for, Paul? Oh, this. We'll probably do it on a game day episode on Saturday with Hop on Pop for that Jets-Packers game. But, Corley is going to be one that I certainly have circled. There's another takeaway. Now, I've said this, that the Jets' top 7 on the depth chart on the offensive line, I feel great about. Unofficial, John Simpson, Joe Tippmann, Elijah Tucker, Ermine Member. Those starting 5, ton of potential. Everyone's 27 or younger. Awesome. The top 2 backups I like. Chukwuma Okorafor. Again, I'm higher on him than a lot of fans should be. That I am higher on Chukwuma Okorafor than a lot of fans are. But I feel very confident he started 60 games in his career. That's pretty good for what is at this point a backup. Let's go to Josh Myers, who is another guy there. He started 56 games in his career. You've got a ton of experience on the bench. So the top 7 I've enjoyed and I like, and that's why I feel so confident about this Jets season, because I think there's a floor here. Now, where I have concern is at backup left tackle. Okay? That's why I have concern, if I'm being honest. Now, if that's your concern, like how bad is your life, right? Sure. But I just want to say, if Olu gets hurt, who is starting at left tackle? Well, according to the unofficial Jets depth chart, that would be Max Mitchell, who's ahead of Carter Warren, interestingly, at left tackle. So Max Mitchell played out at tackle. Okay, so he's there as the backup. And here's why. Because Chukwuma Okorafor, his problem, I spoke to New England Patriots people that were around Chukwuma Okorafor. They confirmed to me that the issue with him, and this isn't breaking news, the issue with him was like he was signed to play right tackle. That's what he's played his entire NFL career. And then the Patriots went, hey, you want to try out left tackle? And he went, no. And then there was this beef. And then they shoved him out there week 1 starting a left tackle. And it went horrifically wrong. And then there was a big beef between him and the team. And then he's not on the Patriots anymore. Then he ends up on the Jets. So long story short, the only reason I bring that up, I'm not trying to break news here. I imagine a lot of people knew that. But what I'm saying is that you're telling me a year later that Chuck or Chooks, as people like to call him, that he's just suddenly going to be, cool being the left tackle? Like in a perfect world, if you could build a football team, you want your 6th tackle, right? Your 6th offensive lineman. You want him to be a swing tackle that could play on the left side or the right side just in case of injury. That's incredibly valuable. I don't think Chooks is going to do that. So that's why I say, that concerns me a little bit, because if Chooks isn't going to do it, and I don't blame him, if he's not comfortable doing it, I don't want him doing it. But that means we don't, if you don't have a swing tackle that can do both, that means you have to have 2 top-tier backup tackles, one that can play left and one that can play right. And the Jets don't have that. I'm not high on Max Mitchell. Now, I'm seeing in the chat that Scotty Mayhem says our right guard is a backup left tackle. Of course, he's indicating Elijah Tucker. Elijah Vera tackle. He can bounce out if necessary. I don't love rearranging the offensive line. Obviously, there would be optionality because Josh Myers has a guard background in high school. Joe Tippmann has played guard before. So maybe that's the play, to your point, Scotty Mayhem, that's what we do. That if an injury like that happens, you go, and you just start switching around pieces. Maybe that's the answer. And hopefully that's a emergency break the glass scenario we won't have to evaluate. Hopefully so. So Max Mitchell, the top backup at left tackle at this point. Shout out to my boy Cole Laval, the top backup to John Simpson. Good to see. Samuel Jackson, 4th string left guard. He's got to work his way up. There for sure. We'll keep an eye out for that one. We will. Liam Fornadale, the former New England Patriots offensive lineman, the Jets added this offseason some more interior depth. He ends up, again, replacing Gus Hartwig on the depth chart. He's the 3rd center at this point. That's going to be a hard group to break because Josh Myers and him are there in that spot. All right, let's go to defense. And boy, you guys are going to overreact to this, but if you've been listening to me, I've been telling you what's going on here, okay? Michael Clemens is the starting defensive end opposite Will McDowell. Now, obviously, it should be noted that Jermaine Johnson is on the PUP list, which means he's ineligible to practice, which means he's ineligible to be on this depth chart. So if Jermaine's healthy, of course he's going to be the starting defensive end. But the fact that Michael Clemens is the starting defensive end opposite of Will McDonald just tells you what the staff thinks about him. Steve Wilkes at his press conference this past week said Michael Clemens is having, quote, an outstanding, quote unquote. I feel like, Dr. Evil with the freaking laser beams with my quotations in the air I'm doing here. He's going to be the third defensive end, which means he's going to get a lot of snaps. And I know a lot of people are not going to be happy about that, but what you should be happy about is we're all Jet fans. Whether you like a player or not, we should root for the player's success. The fact that he's having an outstanding camp should not be bad news. As a matter of fact, it should be good news. We should not be rooting for people to lose their jobs, their JOBs. Come on now. I see Incel Alon in here. I'll flash up a couple of comments every once in a while here. Saying Jermaine Johnson, only playing 20 snaps a game until after the bye. Yeah, two things, I don't want to say confuse me, but the Jets did not make a significant addition at defensive end this offseason. They drafted Tyler Barron. They brought in Rashad Weaver. We'll talk about him. They didn't make a significant addition, which says to me, they must love what they're seeing with the Jermaine Johnson rehab, because if they didn't like what they were seeing, they would have added a Jadeveon Clowney, who remains out there as a free agent, unless I have missed something, or something of that nature, to give you some insurance. The Jets did not do that, which again, to me, says, they think Jermaine Johnson's ahead of schedule. That's what it would say to me. However, I would also say this. Aaron Glenn has reiterated multiple times that they are looking out for the long term with Jermaine. And then a follow-up question is like, well, you still think he's going to be there for week one? Yes. But long term. And is AG setting us up that Jermaine may not be available week one? I'm not trying to break news. I'm not trying to say anything. I'm not sure. I'm not saying that's happening. It's just interesting. It's curious. Just put that in the back of the filing cabinet. AG continues to say long term with Jermaine. Is he setting us up for something? Is he setting us up for, hey, don't be surprised this happens? I don't know. Jermaine says he's fully back. Are the Jets being precautionary? We'll sort of see what happens. But to your point, Incel Alon, how could Jermaine possibly be full go immediately? While I think all of us would love to see it, that seems irresponsible. So this is probably what should happen. I don't know if it's 20 snaps. We could debate about what the number is, but playing it slow is best for business, because we don't want to rush him back and then he gets hurt or compromised again. Then we're in a tough spot. Hep saying he did say Jermaine would be ready for week one. He says he's expected to be. He's expected to be, which we could be debating over additional terminology here. Is his expectation, he said, is at this point that Jermaine will be ready for week one. But it's not official. So we'll sort of see what that means. So, again, something else to consider. So, and again, long story short, Michael Clemens will be a big piece of this rotation. Three Siblings saying he will be ready. God, I hope so, Three Siblings. He better be. Because if he's not, the Jets better make a move, man. They got to make a move. And it's not just about Michael Clemens. It's about the depth. Like, if Jermaine is off the puzzle board, Michael Clemens moves up and all the depth pieces move up. And let me just pull this up as we're looking at the depth chart here. The top backup to Michael Clemens is undrafted free agent Eric Watts. And the top backup to Will McDonald is Rashad Weaver. Now, and then his third string is Tyler Barron. The third string to Michael Clemens is Braden McGregor. Let's go through each of those pieces, right? So Will McDonald, we all feel great about. Obviously, we should. Weaver is sort of an interesting story. Again, 3 of his 4 years in the league, he's not had a sack. That's not good. But there's been some positive signs this offseason. So you're like, maybe the Jets have discovered something here. We're probably selling ourselves on it, but maybe. But like, Eric Watts didn't have a sack last season. Braden McGregor didn't have a sack last season. Those are the top backups to Michael Clemens. Oh, boy. Okay? So we got to see. We got to see what happens there. Because the depth at defensive end is, it's going to be a little questionable at this point. Speaking of defensive line, the starter opposite of Quentin Williams is Byron Cowart. By the way, we got 200 people in the room. Like the video, hit subscribe. Also, if you're just joining us, if we get 5 super chats on the show today at $5 a piece or more, we will reveal the Chef Kevin Gilbert food that will be at the tailgate. He sent in pictures, he sent in videos, and we'll reveal that here on the show. So keep that in mind. That is a goal there on the YouTube. Guys, feel free to take advantage of it. Make sure you guys like the video, hit subscribe. The food looks spectacular. Absolutely. So keep that in mind throughout today's show. But yes, the starting defensive tackle opposite of Quinnen is Byron Coward. Okay, it's been sort of leaning in that direction. Now, there's going to be a rotation too, so keep that in mind. But it's looking like Byron Coward. Now, the immediate backup to him is Derek Nottie, longtime chief. Fidarian Mathis is on this, and then Peyton Page also in that mix. Undrafted free agent out of Clemson. You'll love to see it. And I love this. Let's bring this up from Ed Vargas. Hey, Paul, my wife and I had the pleasure of meeting Chef Kevin at Jake's event. He is a true gentleman. I love Chef Kevin Gilbert. I've never met him in person. That's going to change here at our tailgate special. It's coming up on October 5th. We have a kinship. We have a brotherhood. We have a friendship. And I'm glad. I heard a lot of wonderful things. I saw Jake Asman's highlight video on Instagram about Chef Kevin, hosting that event at his restaurant, Cloverleaf Tavern, and amazing. Chef Kev is amazing, and I appreciate, Chef. This event that we're hosting would not be possible without Chef. I want to make sure, I said it last year when I was with someone else for their tailgate, that if I'm going to do it, if I'm going to come back and do this, I want to do it right, or I don't want to do it at all. And food was a big piece of it. Of course, that's part of the tailgating experience. So I racked my brain around what would be the best way to execute this. And immediately I thought of Chef Kevin Gilbert. And because he's a Boy Green Coffee Club member, so he was in my ethos. And just in general, he has a sterling reputation. So I'm glad you guys got to meet him, Ed, you and your wife, which is excellent. Chef Kev seems like really good people. So he and his son will be coming to our Jets Cowboys game and the tailgate. Again, make sure you subscribe to their channel at Fastest Food Reviews on YouTube. That's a YouTube channel between him and his son. So if you guys want to show support, feel free to do that as well. But yeah, Chef is good people. I am very, very happy for Chef. And I can't wait to meet him for the very first time. It's going to be excellent. But yes. Yes, we have, let me see, what was back to the depth chart here real quick. I'll keep trying to flash up some of your comments here. But yeah, Braden McGregor is still on this roster. Kingsley Jonathan, my former Syracuse guy, he's buried on the depth chart at this point. Michael Fletcher's another one the Jets added, UDFA. He's a 4-string backup. And then, like I said, Jermaine is working his way back. A little surprise, right? So we all know who the 2 starters at linebacker are. It's Quincy Williams. It's Jamie and Sherwood. So we know those 2 guys. Okay, that makes sense. But who would be linebacker 3? And what is linebacker 3? Are they running 4-3? How often is that linebacker on the field? Sub packages versus what the nickel back will be and Michael Carter II. So how important is that role? Who's going to be in that role? A lot of questions that we still don't really know. And I agree, JACK, best linebacker duo in the league. You can make a strong argument that they are. Quincy is amazing. He looks like he is hell on earth, and I think they're going to unleash him as a blitzer this year, which I'm super excited about. He's got speed. He's got power. He's got aggressiveness. So we've seen a few times the Kyler Murray sack against Arizona, the Ryan Tannehill sack against Tennessee a couple years ago. Like, Quincy can be used as a blitzer, and quite frankly, the old staff not using it enough was a shame. So it sounds like this new staff is going to use that a lot. That's awesome. And Jamien's got all kinds of upside. I'm very much looking forward to the encore. Very much. But linebacker 3 is important. Well, obviously injury, right? If either of those top 2 guys go down, who's going to be the next guy up? And what a cool story here. It's Marcelino McCrary Ball is the starting 3rd linebacker or top reserve, again, however you perceive it here on the show. I'm really happy for Marcelino. This is awesome. He's getting his chance. He's obviously making some noise. He's only 26 years of age, came out of college at Indiana. He's been a key special teamer for the Jets the last couple of years. I think Eric Allen had it here. Let me read this. Oh, yeah, here it is. Marcelino McCrary Ball has amassed 243 special teams. Oh, snaps, tackles. I had the number wrong. Sorry, I was saying tackles, not snaps. Marcelino McCurry-Ball has amassed 243 special team snaps. So he's been a big piece of the puzzle over the last couple of years from a special teams perspective. So obviously that's a big piece of the puzzle. Ed Vargas, Paul, my wife and I are now able to go to the Cowboys games. Do you have any pregame tickets left? I do, Ed Vargas. We only have 5 tickets left, so please reach out to me, and you and your wife can take up 2 of those spots. That would be excellent, and please reach out. So you guys can reach out on any social media, Ed, if you'd like, at BoyGreen25, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, or email, and I'll tell it to you here right now what the email is. It is my first name, it's my middle initial, it's my last name, and then jr@gmail.com. So first name, Paul, Paul, A the letter, ESDENJR@gmail.com. And if you email me, you or your wife email me, we'll work out all the details, and I'd love to give you 2 of those tickets. That'd be great, and we could work out the financials. So feel free. They're $300 per person. That gives you a tailgate ticket for Chef Kev, which is awesome. It gives you a ticket to sit with us, 228A, and you guys will also each get a commemorative T-shirt as well. So please reach out ASAP, and we'll get that all figured out. Ed Vargas, baby, and anyone else. The tickets, again, once they're gone, they're gone. I will not have any more to sell. So only 5 ticket packages left. This is for our Jets Cowboys tailgate. And I think when you guys see the food, you're going to be running, because that's going to be a good piece of the puzzle. So thank you, Ed. Looking forward to hearing from you, and hopefully we can get you back at the tailgate. It was fun to have you last year. It'd be great to have you again. And all sitting together, that'll be really cool too. So shout out to Marcelino McCurry-Ball. A mild surprise. It's not a stunning surprise. It's a mild surprise. And Jamin Davis, the former first rounder, is behind him. So interesting. Francisco Mauingoa is the direct backup to Jamian Sherwood. Zaire Barnes is direct backup to Quincy Williams. So we'll see. I also see, let me see who is, if this is a nickname maybe. Yeah. Oh, so I didn't know this. So Aaron Smith, he's an undrafted free agent out of South Carolina State. His name is Aaron Smith, but on the unofficial Jets depth chart, he's called Boog Smith. I didn't know Boog was his nickname, but okay, there you go. There you go, Boog. Going to the secondary, not any surprises. Tony Adams is the starting safety at this point. Malachi Moore is the direct backup to Cisco. We thought that there could have been a Cisco Malachi Moore because he's sort of versatile. He can play a lot of different positions. Quantez Stiggers is direct backup to Sauce Gardner. You love to see that. Jerick Bernard Converse is the direct backup to Brandon Stevens. Zaria Thomas is the 3rd string behind Quantez Stiggers with Sauce's position. And Jordan Clark, that's the son of Ryan Clark, ESPN NFL analyst. He is the direct nickel backup to MC2. MC2, baby. There you go. So that is your depth chart. Special teams, by the way, it took Nick Folk all of 5 seconds to take the starting gig away from Harrison Mevis there at place kicker. So that was quick. And the leading returner, by the way, Xavier Gibson. I know a lot of fans are a little uneven about this, but Xavier Gibson at punt returner and kick returner, he is the starter. Kene Nguanu is his backup at kick return, and Jamal Pritchett is his backup on punt return. Jamal Pritchett is in both competitions, and Arian Smith is in both competitions. So we'll see what happens there. But that is the unofficial Jets depth chart. A lot of interesting stuff. Again, we should have Nick Faria here in a few seconds, and he will reveal his takeaways from the Jets unofficial depth chart being revealed. So I love it. Guys, make sure you guys like the video, okay? We've got 300 people watching across our social media platforms, including 105 on YouTube. So make sure you guys like the video. That's a free way to contribute to the show and get this show in front of other Jet fans. Share your takeaways on the Jets unofficial depth chart. Feel free to do that in the comment section. We'll read some of them here on the show. Again, we should be joined here shortly by Nick Faria, our Jets reporter from JetsXFactor.com. He revealed his top 5 takeaways from the unofficial Jets. Good Lord. Jets depth chart. Never knew that was a tongue twister until just right now. Yeah. That was a cool behind-the-scenes moment there. DJ Dirty Cooch, that AG in the mic'd up like 6 or 7 minute video, whatever was out there. He was chatting up with everybody, including Gibson, about the return game. Isn't that funny, Hennessy Heisman? He says, after Ryan Clark talked all that shit about the Jets, his son is now on the team, and he's forced to like the team. That's sort of funny how that worked out, isn't it? That is sort of hilarious. It's sort of funny. And here we are. Go figure. So, yeah. We'll see if we can get Ryan Clark on the show. That'd be fun. Alrighty. Without further ado, let's get to it. Our special guest every Monday at 8 o'clock here on the program is none other than Jets beat reporter for Jets X Factor, JetsXFactor.com. That is Nick Faria. And our main squeeze, the main character in the Riverdale Press. Let's bring him on. What's up, Nick Faria?
How's everything going, Paul?
Excellent. I see that both of us, we're not the only two, I'm sure, on the planet, but the Jets unofficial depth chart came out, and we both had takeaways to share. First off, as I said at the beginning of the show, and if people are just joining us, you have to take the first unofficial depth chart for sort of what it is before any preseason games have been played. But nonetheless, it's sort of a temperature check, is sort of how I described it earlier on a couple of the competitions and where they seem to be going here, Nick.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you said it best. These position battles, if you will, can change on a dime. An injury could happen. And that changes a lot of different things. Michael Clemens right now is penciled in as a starting edge rusher. Is that going to be the case when Jermaine Johnson comes back? We don't know. He very well could be, but we don't know. So we still have close to about a month before the start of the regular season, close to a month before cutdowns are given. And it's just a matter of being patient as fans and letting these position battles play out. The Jets are going to focus on getting the best players for each particular position. Whoever wins and whoever earns the job has done it because of his work on the field. And that's always something that's important to remember when the first depth chart comes out.
All right, Nick, tell me if I'm reading too much into this. Before we even get to the depth chart, it's this. So Jermaine Johnson, you mentioned him, like what's going to happen when he gets here. Like, he's still on the PUP list, so he can't practice right now. And, hey, the Jets are taking their time with him. Aaron Glenn, every time he's brought up Jermaine Johnson at the podium, two things have happened. Like, they've said, hey, media member, hey, what's going on with Jermaine Johnson? He's like, hey, long-term, baby, long-term. That's what we're thinking about Jermaine Johnson, long-term. And then every single time, the follow-up question is, well, you still expect him for week one, right? Yes, I do. So, like, is he, by continuing to reiterate the long term, he's done this multiple times, is he setting us up that maybe Jermaine Johnson will actually not be available at the beginning of the season? And he's been telling us this entire time to sort of get our minds around that possibility that he might not be ready for the start of the season? Or are we reading too much, or not we, am I reading too much into that?
I think it's not so much that. I think it's so much that, listen, this is a long-term play for him this season. So he may very well play in week one. But is he going to play 50 snaps? Is he going to play 40 snaps? Probably not. I mean, just coming off the Achilles injury. I think that's what he's talking about when he says long-term, because Achilles injuries are tough. And most doctors that I've spoken to about these injuries, it's the same for an ACL. The first year is about getting trust back in your legs, getting trust back in your movement, your lateral movement. And that second year is when you get back to being 100% back to where you were before the surgery happened. So the way that I look at it, it's not so much that he is in danger of missing week one, at least right now. It's a matter of what's he going to look like early on in the season. It's not fair for Jet fans to just magically expect him to have 10 sacks, 8 sacks, whatever it is, at a high pressure rate. That's not likely here. And I think you're setting yourself up for frustration. You're setting the player up for failure if you put that sort of requirement on him this season. So I think the long-term thought is making sure that he is healthy and ready to go for the later portion of the season, and then obviously the year after.
If that's true, which I agree with you, like Jermaine Johnson, if he just suddenly went boom, played 100% of the snaps week one, that would surprise me if that happened. Because, we should be natural to think about it, and Achilles is going to take time. And if it's going to take time, then why didn't the Jets make a significant addition at defensive end? They did not. Tyler Barron, I wouldn't call that significant. That was a 5th-round pick, one of their last picks of the draft, if not the last pick of the draft. So, there hasn't been Rashad Weaver. Does that count as quote-unquote significant? I would say not. So that to me also must be like, man, maybe Jermaine's coming back faster than I thought. Because if you were realistic about how long it takes from an Achilles, wouldn't the Jets be precautionary and add somebody so there's no pressure, right? That's sort of what we said about Tyron Smith. Oh, perfect last year. No pressure on Olu. We don't have to force them out there. They could take their time and do it whenever they want. By not having another big-time guy outside of Michael Clemens, it seems like you're almost forced in your head to get Jermaine on the field faster because you don't have a capable replacement for him, and then a replacement for Clemens, who would be the third defensive end on the team.
I think this has more to do with what the Jets feel like their defensive scheme can be.
Oh, okay.
Last year and throughout the Robert Saleh era, they were very heavily predicated on their front four. They were going to get pressure with their front four. They were going to mix and max coverages, and just be able to make life miserable for an an opposing quarterback. It's a little bit different now. They're not going to be so reliant on the defensive line because they're going to throw exotic blitzes out on the field. That's all you're seeing so far in practice. Exotic blitz here, exotic blitz there, all these things. They're throwing all these different coverages out, all these different looks out, and it looks significantly different than what Robert Saleh used to do. And I think the reason why they didn't really address the defensive line, kind of in the same way that Rex Ryan, his era happened. Because if you look, the Jets defense during the Rex Ryan eras were elite, absolutely elite.
Sure.
Who was their top edge rusher? They weren't known. They weren't known
Right.
for their defensive line. Is my point. They
Sure.
were known for great linebackers and a great secondary, and they would mix and match everything to go along with that. I kind of see that path for this defense where they have great defensive linemen, which is only going to help them. But
Sure.
they're going to be throwing so many exotic looks on the field that it's just not going to matter. And the big question will be, can this defense stop the run? And I think the wide nine that Robert Saleh always used to love, it's heavily predicated on great defensive linemen, because if you don't have great defensive linemen, then the wide nine gets shelled against the run. That's what happened. They are looking at it. The Jets coaching staff is looking at it and saying, we're going to be better against the run from a schematic standpoint, and that's going to really help fix these problems. Whether they do, whether it does, it doesn't really matter. We're in August. We have no idea if that's going to happen. But that's kind of their mindset at this point.
Well, that certainly makes sense. Again, we have Jets beat reporter Nick Faria of JetsXFactor.com here on the show. 300 people in the room. Make sure you guys like the video, hit subscribe. We'll open up the phone lines in a little bit once my interrogation session is over here with Nick Faria. So is Mason Taylor just a bust? He's already a backup on the first unofficial depth chart. Like what a loser selection this was. That obviously has to be the takeaway, right, Nick?
Yeah, listen, Mason Taylor, Arian Smith, guys that were drafted within the first 4 rounds, not even getting a starting rep. What are we doing here? No, we got a long way to go. I am a firm believer with what I've seen from Mason Taylor that he will be the starting tight end eventually, whether it be in week 1, whether it be in week 5. He's going to be the starter long term because he just looked like the best all-around player at this position. With Arian Smith, Malachi Corley, it's interesting that Malachi Corley was ranked above Arian Smith in the depth chart. Certainly a question mark there. What happens on that? And what's going to happen overall? Because you have Josh Reynolds and Alan Lazard as 2 penciled-in starters, but they're both the same player. Is one coming out in the slot? What's going to happen there? So there's a lot of questions, particularly at receiver, that haven't really been answered yet. And we won't know the answer until after the preseason games are all played. Listen, Arian Smith can go out there and absolutely stink it up in the preseason, and Malachi Corley can dominate. And then we're all talking, oh man, this is great, a young draft pick, everything's coming up Jets. The opposite could happen. We just don't know at this point. We will know eventually within 6-7 days, which is great to hear. Football finally being back, Jets football finally being back. So all that's great, but it's just a reminder. There's no reason for panic just yet on any of these young guys.
Yes, I am kind of curious. You're right with the redundancy between, the Spider-Man meme of Josh Reynolds and Alan Lazard pointing at each other, the same thing. Like, how did the Jets value that? Especially like a guy like Lazard, he doesn't play special teams. So if you start stacking the depth chart, normally your 3, 4, 5s are all playing special teams. If Lazard does not, how does he, and he's not a starter, then where does he fit into the mix? I guess we'll find that out. You've brought up the preseason a few times. We got Jets-Packers coming up on Saturday. We have not spoken with AG yet for quote-unquote preseason week. They had an off day yesterday, Nick. But what is your expectation for preseason schedule in terms of playing time? Because there are some coaching staffs that vehemently believe they play none of their starters the entire time. I believe the Rams have done that a few times. There's others like the Chiefs play all the starters and do all kinds of crazy stuff. What's your prediction here for AG? Is it going to be one extreme or the other? Will it be somewhere in between? What do you think?
We're going to find out relatively soon regarding that decision, whether it's today, whether it's tomorrow, whether it's Thursday. We're going to know. We're going to find out then. If I were to guess, and this is purely a guess,
of course,
I don't think the starters play. I really don't.
At all.
Not at all. At
Okay.
least in this game. Maybe they play
Okay.
next week, but the first preseason game, remember, when there were 4 preseason games back in the day when we played a 16-game
Good
schedule,
times. Yeah.
the first preseason game, starters didn't really play much. Second preseason game, they maybe got a series or two. Third preseason game is when they would get a quarter, sometimes even a half for some teams. The way that I understood it is the first preseason game is very similar to the first two for most teams. The second preseason game is sort of a walkthrough for the starting offense. They would get reps, they would do this, they would do that. And then the third preseason game is more just a flip of the coin. All the bottom of the roster guys get playing time in. So I don't think it's smart to play the starters. I mean, there's so many examples of a starter going down and your season getting derailed right before it begins in meaningless games. There are other times where it's happened, it's worked out, but the Jets should not be expecting that to happen this year because the depth on the team isn't where it needs to be. The team, I think, is going to be a lot better than people expect. There is good depth on some parts of the roster. There is also bad depth on some of the roster as well. They're in the early stages of this building process. When you're in those early stages, you do not want to sort of tempt the football gods by giving an injury to your team where you can solely afford to lose a player.
Let's go to one of the most debated, and I don't even know if that's the right word, but let's just lay it out there. Joe Tippmann, Josh Myers. Oh, boy. Joe Tippmann's going to be the starting center. Joe Tippmann's going to be the starting center. Joe Tippmann's going to be the starting center. And then there's been a lot of, but the early indication, unofficial depth chart, Joe Tippmann on top. That could have been an opportunity for you want to pop from the crowd. If that article would have came out and Josh Myers was on top, that would have, I don't think we would have, a lot of proper handling of that would have came about, but no need for that. Tippmann was the starter. So what does that say to you?
It says absolutely nothing. They've been splitting reps throughout practices to this point.
Okay.
And it's really, to me, in my opinion, I think it's more neck and neck that even we realized. It just because it's kind of dead even. They're not really giving one rep to this person, one rep to that person. They're both splitting different days, and I think that's a clear sign that they want to have this as a competition. Now, I'm not really sure what's going to happen. I still think that Joe Tippmann gives the Jets the best chance to win at center. I think he does a better job in run blocking. Myers hasn't really had the best career out in Green Bay. It's hard for me to just magically assume that he's going to be able to fix everything if Myers is the starter. But by and large, the way that I look at things, who gives you the best potential for success? That is obviously Joe Tippmann. Maybe the Jets agree with that going into the regular season. Maybe they are using this for him to get focused and sort of reach his highest potential. All of that could be considered. All of that could be a possibility. We just don't know because it's kind of rare when you see a player that was a top 10 performer at his position last year essentially be told, hey, you're going to go in a competition with someone that wasn't even in the same ballpark as you last year. So a big question mark there. I still think Tippmann's probably going to win the job, but it's a lot closer than I think most people anticipated.
I've got 3 words for you, Nick Faria. You know, if I ever say 2 words, that's bad. I could go all DX on you. But no, I've got 3 words for you. Marcelino, McCrary, Ball. All of a sudden, whoa now. Okay, the Jets, we all know all the top 2 linebackers. Some people say it's the best linebacker duo in the NFL with Jamie Sherwood and Quincy Williams. But who is going to be 3? And 3 is pretty important. If anyone gets injured, that third guy's coming on. And then just in general, depending on how this new regime splits up the scheme, like that third guy could be on the field sometimes, a little bit of the time, a lot of the time. We don't know with how they're going to be running 4-3. So what do you make of Marcelino McCurry Ball being that third guy, even over a guy like Jamin Davis, who's a former first-round pick?
Well, it shows that McCrary Ball has done a really good job of making an impact. And he has made some big-time plays throughout training camp. But I want to preface this by saying in the modern NFL, the base defense is no longer the 4-3 or the 3-4, where you have 3 to 4 linebackers on the field at all times. That's not the base personnel anymore. The base personnel is having the nickel in there, the slot guy in there, potentially even a third safety. That is base for the modern NFL. Now, maybe it changes in the future, but as of right now, it's been that way for another 10, 15 years. So it's a safe bet to assume that this is going to stick to where it is. But when they are in base, yes, it's an important position. Having that third linebacker that they can trust. We have to remember, 2 years ago, that player was Jamie Sherwood, and he has grown into one of the better young linebackers in the game. So McCurry Ball taking that next step. Maybe he's the eventual replacement for Quincy Williams. We have no idea, at least at this point. But and again, it's still way too early to say that he's won the job. But they've got a lot of depth. They've got a lot of experience at linebacker. I would love to see what happens during the preseason because I don't think starters are going to play. I think it would be foolish to have both Jamie and Quincy on the field in week 1 for this preseason contest. And that would mean McCrary Ball gets a really good opportunity to show that he is willing and able to take that next step as a linebacker.
Yeah, we don't need any Avery Williamson situation. I was on a cruise and I was like, oh my God, this is great. I'm going on a cruise for the first time in my life. And, they do this whole like little party when you're leaving for the very first time. We're like, bye, random people out on land. And I did have a Wi-Fi package. So my Wi-Fi was as the ship was parting. And all of a sudden I got, dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. Avery Williamson's leg just exploded in the Falcons preseason game. I'm like, wait, what? And it said, sorry, you don't have a signal. And I was just going, no. And then I had no idea what happened for a week as I just sort of sat on that news. It was the last piece of, communication I had with America before I went on this cruise ship was Avery Williamson's leg exploding in a Falcons game because apparently Adam Gase played him too long in a preseason game. So I'd rather none of I'm not going on a cruise this year, so that's too bad. But no, I need none of those kinds of updates. So that would be spectacular, Nick, if we could try to avoid that entirely. Now, I will say, not that this is surprising, but it took all 5 seconds. Nick Folk is already the starter. Sorry, Harrison Mevis. Place kicker competition over?
Maybe. Again, let's wait to see the preseason. I don't want to give any definitive answer on August 4th. Let's just put it that way because so many different things can change. But yes, so far, Nick Folk's been the better kicker, and it really hasn't been close. Saturday's practice, yes, Folk missed 2 kicks. One of them was a very makeable 20-yarder. Neither kicker looked very good at that point, but Harrison Mevis also went 2 for 5, and he missed from everything over 40 yards. So,
oh boy,
writing is kind of on the wall there about who the better kicker is and who the team is probably going to roll with moving forward. But there's also a possibility where they say, "Hey, let's keep 2 kickers on the team throughout training camp, throughout the preseason, so that way we don't overuse Folk, who's over 40 years old at this point."
Okay.
Someone else does kickoff, someone else does this, someone else does that, and allow him to just gradually get to that point where he's ready to go at the start of the regular season. That could also be a possibility as well.
Okay, that makes sense because I was just thinking about that. You have to let competitions play out, but I imagine Harrison Mevis did not wake up to that news of, oh my God, this is great. Nick Folk just entered the competition. I imagine that did not feel very good for Harrison Mevis, but to the point, I'm like, man, how much longer are they going to keep this charade on of poor Harrison Mevis, right? He's never kicked at the NFL level, and then Nick Folk comes in who's 40, and he's kicked for like a cajillion years, and he's been the field goal conversion leader in the NFL the last 2 years. This sort of seems like an uneven fight, but to your point, hey man, it's sort of like camp arms at quarterback, right? Like you're going to need, there's just an amount of reps that have to happen. And you don't want all of them to go to Justin Fields. Somebody else has to throw around the pigskin. So while I don't know if Harrison's going to love this description of him, man, somebody's got to kick some balls out there, but someone does. Yeah.
It's just a matter of where we are right now. You don't want to have your kicker taking 15, 20 kicks a practice because then their leg's going to fall off by the end of the year. But at the end of the day, maybe something changes. Folk could struggle in the preseason, and then they're back in the kicking game looking for someone to sign. Something could absolutely happen where that's an issue. But while the kicking position remains something of a question mark, we're at least understanding a little bit that it's not going to be a question mark for very long.
Yeah, let me ask you about this. This is a good question because so a couple of years ago, apparently it's 7 years ago now, so I'm getting old. But I did a training camp tour. I went to like Jets, Giants, Bills, and did all those. And I saw this happen. And Jets Worldwide's asking it. Question for Nick: what's with the phantom kicks during practice? Because I saw it in Giants camp, I saw it in Bills camp. Like basically, like in a punting situation, they're doing a punting like full on. It appears to be 11 on 11, and the punter goes, and instead of punting it, he just sort of grabs the ball and then just puts it behind him, and fake goes through the motion. And then they run the drill, and the guy like fake fair catch it. They do this whole thing. They do that on field goals every once in a while, where the kicker just sort of runs through but doesn't actually kick it. What's the point of that?
The point of it is to make sure the coverage is correct, making sure everyone's in their particular spots. That's very, very common because everyone's focused on the punter, get inside the 5-10 yard line, but everyone wants to make sure they're in their right lanes, making sure there's no one out of spots. And also, again, you don't want to overuse your punter in training camp. So it's kind of two-pronged. You don't want to overuse the guy, but you also want to make sure from a schematic and from a technical standpoint that everyone else is doing what they're supposed to do.
Okay, that makes sense. Before we throw it over to the phone lines and those hungry animals outside, before we open those doors, how much should we overreact? We just talked about the unofficial Jets depth chart, don't overreact. What about the green and white scrimmage? Penalties, there's apparently 12 or 13 penalties. Justin Fields couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. He couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. And now, it's the scrimmage, which was supposed to be, as Aaron Glenn prefaced, hey, this is supposed to be like a real game-like atmosphere, and if it is, it looked ugly.
And I will say, in defense of Justin Fields, the numbers look terrible, 2 of 10, everything like that. However, I do think he played a lot better than the numbers actually say.
Oh, okay.
He was going through his reads. He was a victim of a couple of really bad drops. Okay. The receivers weren't getting open, and again, if a receiver isn't getting open, that's not on the quarterback. That's on the receiver to get open. I think that had more to do with the Jets secondary being really, really good and a chance to be a top 2 unit in the league this year than Justin Fields not going through his reads effectively enough, because you could see the process. I think that process is speeding up for him a little bit. He had a great practice on Friday. Saturday, the numbers aren't good, but I thought the eye test told me a little bit of a different story. The arm strength was there. I thought the accuracy was there. Again, if you're throwing the ball in an out route to Garrett Wilson and Brandon Stevens makes a great play on the ball, that's not on the quarterback. That's a great play by the corner. That's a great play by the corner. So to me, it's just a matter of making sure the tempo is right, making sure the offensive schematics are correct. It's really just a case of, if Justin Fields is going to play like he did on Friday or like he did on Saturday, can this team still win? And that comes to the second part of this point. With the penalties, because the penalties were an eyesore. I mean, we got to around the 10th penalty on offense, and I turned to, I think it was Robbie Sabo, and I literally said, Robert Saleh was victimized because his team was the most penalized roster in football for back-to-back years. And Aaron Glenn, for the most part, has talked about discipline, making sure that you don't commit all these penalties, and it's still happening. So what is it? I do think that some of the penalties were a little ticky-tack. Maybe Aaron Glenn talked to the referees and said, anything close, call it on us so we can go back to the film and watch it. That happens a lot with coaches. Okay. But it's just a matter of Justin Fields, I didn't think had as bad of a day as many people are talking about. But the offense was horrific. I mean, they would get inside the 20-yard line, and there'd be a holding penalty. There would be a false start penalty. And it was really dumb, too. Like, you would have a receiver jump off sides because he wanted to get into his route fast enough. That can't happen. It just can't happen. And that's concentration. That is discipline. And the Jets did their part. The coaching staff did their part. And anytime a player made a mistake, he would come off the field. He would lose a couple of reps. That's part of the accountability piece that Jets fans are looking for. But did it solve anything? Throughout Saturday's practice, it didn't. And that's where it comes back to the players, where they actually have to do it. You can blame the coaches all you want, but the players actually have to go out there and do what they're supposed to do.
Nick, this is why we have you on the show. The context is important because, a lot of the fans, there were fans, there are 2,000, 3,000 fans over there, excuse me, so they got to see it. But 99% of the Jets fan base all around the world just sees 2 of 10 on Justin Fields. They're like, oh, gee, good Lord have mercy. So it's great to get the context of that. Same thing with penalties, too. I'm sure that is how AG has it cooked up. Again, neither me or you are saying, pass the biscuits. No penalty issues here. The refs were being a little trigger happy. But no, the proper context to sort of understand it, I think, certainly helps. So I appreciate that. All right. Without further ado, we got 400 people in the room. Let's do this. We'll take a quick hep time out and your phone calls next here on Boy Green Gosh Darn Daily. Let's go.
Boy Green Daily, Boy Green Daily, Boy Green Daily. Talking Jets football, man. Boy Green Daily, Boy Green Daily, Boy Green Daily. New York Jets Football Club. Offense, defense, special teams, watch Jets football with Boy Green. J-E-T-S. Jets. Let's go.
You heard him. The message is simple. Let's go, baby. And also, if you guys send in 5 super chats on the show today, we will reveal Chef Kevin Gilbert's food that he'll be having on the tailgate. He sent in some videos and pictures. It is terrific, so appreciate it. So we'll be revealing that at some point here on the show, coming up here on the program. Again, we have Jets preseason game numero uno. It'll be against the Green Bay Packers here. And one thing I'm going to want to try to do, Nick, before we get to that preseason game is hopefully have like a Green Bay Packers person on, because not just for breaking down the X's and O's of a preseason game, but more so the roster stuff, because obviously for the Jets, you get a up close and personal look at another team, and you could say, ooh, that defensive tackle isn't too bad. It's an opportunity. It'll be even greater for the joint practice, I imagine, in Jets Giants, when you have the full staffs and everyone looking at things both from the Jets perspective and that first practice, and then the Giants facilities at the second one. But I think you can even do that for the games that you don't have the joint practices for, Nick.
Yeah, 100%. And there are going to be bottom of the roster players that get cut that probably shouldn't have been because of their position groups. Maybe the Packers have a couple of defensive linemen that are released in a couple of weeks, and the Jets are able to pick up and find a role for. These things happen all the time, and it's just a matter of the Jets scouting department being ready. Now, I will say that I'm very excited for this game because I want to know exactly, from a personal perspective, I want to know what these Packer reporters are saying about the tush push and why exactly the Packers made it their destiny, their goal to get rid of this beautiful, beautiful play. From a selfish perspective, if you were able to get that, I will gladly listen in on that show and make sure that accountability is held true.
Okay, I'm putting that in my notes because I'm in communication with 3 Green Bay Packers beat reporters right now. So it looks like it's definitely going to happen for one of the shows. So that's a good question I want to put on.
We need accountability. Why is this team getting off the hook?
Yeah, that's true. Right. We haven't heard a lot about it outside of the immediate Eagles jokes that they did on social media, like poking fun at them. That's sort of been it. And as far as I know, I'm an overall football fan, so I haven't seen it anywhere else. But that's all that I've sort of seen for quote unquote accountability for them going, I'm not so sure. And nothing has happened yet. So, yes, I have that on my notes now, Nick. We'll try to see if we could get that answered, or just to put them on blast and then they have no answer for it. But they just go, geez, I don't know. That'd be hilarious. All right, let's get a super chat in here. Again, we are now 4 $5 super chats away from Chef Kevin Gilbert's food being revealed here on the show. We got videos and pictures. So again, you guys send in a $5 super chat, ask a question to Nick. Also, these count for your raffle tickets as well. So it's a double dip every time we get a super chat. My daughter's right, Luna. Wow. And Mr. Chill 211 King, thank you for sending this in. You got yourself a raffle ticket for a contest. You're $1 away from another raffle ticket. When they get penalties, does AG fire into them, or is he passive? How is he on the players messing up? Because Robert Saleh just looks silly out there, he says.
I don't think it's yelling and screaming. I just think it's very simple. Okay, you want to make this mistake? Well, then get off the field. You're going to lose a rep, and you need reps in order to be ready for the regular season. So I think it's more of just a matter-of-fact thing from Aaron Glenn. It's not, it's okay, come off the field, regroup, and everything else. It's get off the field, you lose a rep, that's your problem. That's not our problem. Figure it out and do the right thing.
And what do you think about, so you mentioned that, obviously AG was doing this on Saturday, but it didn't seem to be helping because the penalties persisted. They continued. So what's the word I'm looking for? So penalties happen, AG takes them off the field, but there's no immediate result of oh, wow, the penalty stopped. How much of a sample size do you need before you start changing it? Because I imagine if the dog keeps pissing on the carpet, he keeps swatting in the nose with a newspaper and nothing happens, well, I guess I got to change the technique, or else insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. So how much longer do they do that in terms of accountability of just as a matter of fact, I don't have the book in front of me. When I'm at the laundromat, and I had to catch up on a lot of weeks of laundry, I was reading the Bill Belichick book, It's All About Winning, or whatever the book's called, and I just happened to be in the penalty section. I said, oh, this will be good. And he says what he used to do in practice at first is to rip into the one player. So if Nick Faria was a defensive lineman, he jumped off, said, hey, Nick, go run 12 miles. See ya, pal. And he said he used to do that. And then he said he had an idea. He's like, okay, sure. The one guy gets punished for doing that. But you want to know what I'm going to do? hey, Nick, you messed up. Hey, defensive line, everyone run. And then Bill Belichick explained in the book that everyone gave that guy shit. Like, oh, nice, pal. We're running for you. You better suck it up, pal. And he said, oh, that proved to be quite effective. So how long until we start shifting to other techniques here?
I don't think it's going to be that long. They had a lot of penalties on Friday's practice. They had a lot of penalties on Saturday's practice. I'm not going to be there today or tomorrow. It's a print day, so making sure everything goes out. But I would assume very soon that if these problems continue to persist, then Aaron Glenn is going to go through the Bill Belichick book and see exactly where he can help and sort of end this concern.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on that. Mr. Cho211 King, thank you so much for sending that in. We appreciate it. Let's go to the phone lines. Hep joins us. What's up, Hep?
Hey, Paul. Hey, Nick. How you doing?
Yo.
Hey, fellas. Nick, I'm curious to see, as far as us picking up any kind of waivers and someone on waivers, what do you think we might be showing up? Maybe a second wide receiver, an interior lineman. What's your opinion on that?
I think it's more about. I don't think we're anywhere at the point where they're going to be picking anybody up at this juncture. I do think that they will be in the market. They'll take a look and see who's going to be cut at receiver, defensive line, maybe even offensive line, potentially at safety. No team is going to be set right immediately after cuts. There's always going to be roster moves that are made. And a player that makes the team on Monday could be cut on Wednesday. That's the unfortunate business of the NFL. But there's a lot of different avenues they could go down. I don't think we're at the point where we know per se exactly who they're going to target. But they will definitely, I'm sure, be looking at the waiver wire and making sure they can get someone as a pickup.
You think a pass rusher might be in play there as well?
Would make a lot of sense. But again, I do think that they aren't as worried about the defensive line as many fans are to this point.
Is Clowney still available, or is he just not a good fit for the New York Jets? What do you think?
If they haven't signed him yet, I don't think he's getting signed by the team. And listen, he had a great career, great story, number 1 overall pick. But at this point, he's a mercenary, and a mercenary isn't exactly a great fit for a defense that is going to be predicated on different looks and different schemes.
Right. What's the vibe at the camp this year with the Aaron Glenn administration?
There's a lot of positive vibes. Everyone is liking what Glenn is teaching. They're focused on the teaching aspect, which I think is very important from a coaching staff with a young roster like this. We don't know exactly if that's going to mean anything, though. So, I would say, vibes at Jets camp the last 2 years before were very high. You had Aaron Rodgers. There was a Super Bowl aspiration. All of that. All of it makes sense. But it didn't mean anything. So as much as we can say there's positive vibes now, does that mean they're going to win 12 games?
No.
Hard to say.
No, I was curious more about the crowd response, because there was a little bit of a dip after Rodgers left, and it was everybody had a chip on their shoulder about AG. I'm wondering if he's starting to win everybody over in the crowd.
I think he's already won over a lot of the fans, at least right now. I mean, why are you going to be so downtrodden on a head coach that's 6 months into his job? It doesn't make much sense to me if that's the case. If I'm sitting here and saying, he did this wrong, and the fans are turning on him already, that's one thing. But he's preparing the team for training camp. We are not even close to the point where people can start criticizing Aaron Glenn for how he's running practice. We have no idea if it's going to work or not. It's anyone complaining about Aaron Glenn at this point and in August needs their head examined, because it's just it's way too early to start talking about if a coach is doing the right thing or not, if he made the right decision on how to run this practice or not, because no one understands how to run an NFL practice. Anyone who thinks they do is lying to themselves. So I think, excuse me, I think he's fine. I think he's going to be fine, and I think the Jets fans are going to take to him very well.
Thanks, fellas.
All right, Hep, thank you so much. You've sent Nick Faria into a tizzy here with your flurry of questions. Let's start off with the waiver wire thing real quick. The only waiver wire move I've noticed the Jets have made so far is simply replacing someone. So someone gets hurt, they swapped one injured guy out for a new guy. That was Mario Goodrich, who apparently has some former ties with the Philadelphia Eagles. That's where he started his career and has sort of bounced around here. Jalen Simpson, he was one of the guys who got hurt apparently during the scrimmage over the weekend, and now Mario comes in. Do you know anything about this Super Mario kid?
Yeah, he's a good kid. UDFA
Yep.
was kind of to stand out a little bit in camp for a couple of years, but I don't. There's not much there. Maybe he could play some special teams, but he was never really a special team star in Philly. He was beat out by Eli Ricks when they were competing for that final roster spot, and there was a pretty clear gap. So, special teams guy can help in the secondary, but I wouldn't expect the world here with him.
Fair enough. Again, we got 400 people in the room. Like the video, hit subscribe, baby. Here on the program, we'll have Nick for a little bit longer here on the show, and then we'll sign off. Guys, we are 4 super chats away from revealing the Chef Kevin Gilbert food, the videos and pictures that he sent in over the weekend. Shout out to Chef for sending those along. Really appreciate it. Thank you kindly, guys, for continuing to send everything along here. Let's see. I see Jets Worldwide with some speculation on the Green Bay Packers thing, saying Packers are against the tush push because they think they can make love the right way.
I know the Eagles and Packers play in Lambeau this year, and I've already said if Philadelphia runs the tush push like 10 times on the opening drive, that the fan base is going to go ballistic with joy. Just put it that way. It was stupid to to try and ban the play. It's stupid now that people are still upset about the play. It's a variation of the quarterback sneak. Not everyone can run it. Not everyone can be successful with it. Sorry, deal with it.
There you go. Incel Lon says this: how long would it take for Aaron Glenn to pull Justin Fields if he's playing awful during the regular season?
I think he's got a longer leash than people expect. I think he's probably got the longest leash of any quarterback, any player on this roster. And I am not being facetious here because he was brought in and signed a free agent deal. We assume that there was some under the table guarantees, if you will, that if he signed with the Jets, that he would be the unquestioned starter and there would be no change at the quarterback position. Remember last year in Pittsburgh, he was benched 6 games into the season, even though he had the Pittsburgh Steelers at 4-2. He was benched for Russell Wilson. He didn't want to go back to Pittsburgh because they had such a short leash for him. Even though he was winning, they still replaced him. They were a little bit better without him, but it wasn't that much of a discrepancy. So if you're looking at it from Justin Fields' perspective, you're not going to any team that wants to make you a starter, but will just pull the rug out from under you right away. So I think he's got a very, very long leash. I think even if he struggles in a game or two, he's not going to get replaced. I think he's got probably the longest leash on this roster.
And I would agree. I think for people that say, oh boy, Tyrod's waiting there. Tyrod, happy birthday. He's 36. That just transpired over the last couple of days. Come on, man. We know what Tyrod Taylor is. We don't know what Justin Fields is. And the Jets seem all in on Fields for better for worse. If it works out great, they found the franchise quarterback. If it works out shitty, well, okay, we have a top 10 pick to go get whatever our quarterback is in the future. I think they are pot committed here. And I think the only way they pull him is injury. Unless they start off 0-6, 0-7, and Justin Fields is like a 40 intercept. Okay, we go to some historically inept thing, maybe. But I think they are in on Fields, and we'll see what happens. So,
I don't even know if he'll bench him then. I really don't.
Yeah.
I think they were going to say we're going to ride with Fields the entire way. If we're 0-10, we're going to have Justin Fields play for the final 7 games. I really, really believe that they are 100% in on him for this year and are hoping to see any excuse to trust him going into 2026.
All right, let's go back to the phone lines. This is a man who's been through 57 years of pain and counting. He's counting it. Neil's here on the show. What's up, Neil? Good morning. It's good to have you back.
Good morning, guys. What's up, Nick?
How you doing, Neil?
How you been?
Good, good. How are you?
All right, good. You've been at a lot. Well, I'm assuming you've been at all the practices, or what?
For the most part, yeah.
What's the main difference you think between? I mean, you've been to what now? This is your 3rd camp?
3rd camp, yep.
What's the? Are you seeing a major difference in the camp as far as discipline, as far as the coaching, and
It's more, 100%. It's more teaching. There's
Okay.
more instruction. There's more intentionality in the way that they operate and do things. The one example that I will say, and I think this is what really killed Robert Saleh and his staff. In year one, he even said it. The talent on the team was the equivalent of an expansion roster. They were terrible. The team around Sam Darnold was terrible. They draft Zach Wilson, or Zach Wilson was the first draft pick. So it was the first year with Zach Wilson, they were terrible. The second year, they bring in Sauce, they bring in Garrett, they bring in this infusion of young talent. And they're a lot better than what many people expected. They get to 7 wins, 7-4. Everyone's feeling high and mighty about the team. And then they lose 6 in a row. What fans and the team should have done is said, okay, we got incrementally better. We got a little bit better here. 3 wins to 7 wins. This is all you can ask for. Now let's get a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. Instead, they said, well, clearly we're only a quarterback away. That's all we need. We just need a quarterback, and we can go from 7 wins to 12 and just boom and bust right away. The fact that they went from, okay, mediocre to, well, we need to go all in, that was always going to be a recipe for disaster. That was always a massive gamble because no one knew exactly what was going to happen. So the way that I look at it, Saleh changed the schematic, changed everything to fit a win-first mindset instead of gradually building towards something great. Look at the Detroit Lions. Detroit goes from 3 wins to 9 wins. They don't make the playoffs that second year. They could have easily said, hey, let's go all in on these guys. They don't. They say, let's build with what we have. And they get to the NFC Championship game the very next year. Not saying that was going to happen with the Jets, but you could have seen a path where they got a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. And they just tried to skip the line. And because they tried to skip the line, the development of these younger players took a massive nosedive. That's a lot different now. The Jets are looking at this and saying, okay, it's not that we're a quarterback away. We want to be competitive. Let's be competitive. How can we do that? Well, it comes down to coaching, putting your players in the best situation possible and making sure that there's schemes available for them to get the most out of their overall talent. That's the big difference. They're not cutting corners with this coaching staff. They're not cutting corners in how they're building this team. They're doing things the right way. And that's all you can ask for a team that hasn't been to the playoffs in 14 years. You're not looking for a Super Bowl contender in 2025. You're looking to play good football for 17 games. If that means 8 wins, if that means 9 wins, whatever it is, you are looking for better football from this roster.
Now, let me, is there anybody on the teaching, talking about the teaching, right? Most teams, have a veteran in almost every room, or most rooms that could like work after practice with some of the younger guys and stuff like that, which I think is important, especially in developing a rookie. Are you seeing any of that after practice? Like, who are the guys that you would say are going to be the teachers rather than being the teach? Because I don't really see many. I mean, this team's so young, Nick, and they really didn't take any veterans on in the offseason.
But there are veterans in backup roles. So you have Tyrod Taylor at quarterback. You have Alan Lazard at receiver. You have Okorafor at tackle, who I think is an underrated piece in terms of depth and helping instruct. Armand Membu. The defensive line, there's a couple of older pieces. Nadi's one who can help out. Cornerback, Brandon Stevens is a veteran, but you're not really worried about that position group.
Right.
Cisco's the veteran. There's this is a young team, but they've got veterans in place behind them to sort of just say, okay, this is how we're going to do it. This is the right way to do it, and go from there. The coaching also has been far more, I would say, profound at this point. They are clear. It's all about instruction. It's all about making sure that these guys are prepared from a schematic standpoint, from a fundamental standpoint, that's going to help them out in the long run.
What about our offensive line coach? I'm curious. I mean, we were so horrible with the offensive line coaching the last few years. Have you noticed anything there? I mean, what's this guy like?
Steve Hyden. Steve Hyden is his name.
What's he like, Nick? I mean, do you watch him in practice and see what he's doing with these guys?
Yeah,
and how does it look?
I think, again, far more instructional than the previous regime. I think that they're doing a really good job with Fashanu and Membu and making sure that they're ready to go. came off the practice field. I saw Olufashano talking to an edge rusher after practice on Saturday. It's all communication. This team is communicating and making sure that they are getting the necessary tutelage needed to be successful. And I think with this offensive line, we're not going to know how good this group is in preseason. We're just not. We're going to know week 1, week 2, when and if they're running the ball for 5-6 yards a carry. And I'll even preface this by saying the Jets are probably going to give up a lot of sacks this year. Not all of them are going to be on the offensive line. Some of them are going to be because Justin Fields holds on to the ball too long. Sometimes he's going to try to make a play and he just gets tackled behind the line of scrimmage. All those things are going to be counted for as sacks. I think there's going to be a very large sack total this year for this offensive line. But that doesn't mean they're bad. I really do believe that this offensive line, from a run game perspective, is going to be really freaking good because they have absolutely trounced the D-line whenever they run the ball. I mean, there are times where Breece Hall, Isaiah Davis, these guys are getting 6 yards downfield before even being touched.
Well, that's where, again, that is that so much that the offensive line run blocking is that good, or are we so thin on the D line that we really have concerns there? I'm obviously, Paul. I mean, you would agree with this. If there's anything that we're really concerned about, is that defensive line is real thin. I mean, once you get by Quentin, I mean, God Almighty. I mean, I get sick to my stomach when I hear about Clemens, and we're going to try to repackage him and put a different uniform on him. I mean, I'd almost prefer that he gain 30 pounds, lose the muscle, and maybe he could be a fat guy to stop the run. I don't care about how good his body looks. I mean, Aaron Glenn loves his body.
Yeah,
I
it
don't
loves
give
his
a
body.
shit. Yeah, plays like Tarzan, looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane. That's my motto for him. What other defensive line guys, Nick, have you noticed that you could say, okay, this is going to be a run stopper, or do we have any depth on the run stopping area? Or this guy Noddy's our big guy, right? That was the
Well,
big
it's
guy.
not just Noddy either, because you have Peyton Page, who has been shockingly good as a UDFA so far. And
Is
Byron
he over
Cowart,
300 pounds? Is he a big guy? I didn't really see what he looks
I
like.
believe so. I believe so.
Okay.
Byron Cowart is penciled in as a starter. He's played like a starter. So he's also pretty solid. Leonard Taylor's picked it up as of late. There's depth along the defensive line. Don't let people tell you there isn't. And it's just a matter of figuring out the schematic standpoint to making sure that they can stop the run. They're not in the wide 9 anymore.
I know. I think our stopping the run. Look, I am expecting, without a doubt, a major step up on
Yeah.
defense. I mean, the reality is we never move safeties to the line of scrimmage. We never run blitzed. You're right. This wide 9 just set itself up for big gaps and big runs. So, from that perspective, you don't really need to have. It's nice to have a beefcake up there, but the reality is, if you bring these safeties in, when I look at the Chiefs and you look at most of the plays being made behind the line of scrimmage are being made by safeties, and we never really were a team that could really do that. And I think now with Cisco and the additions we have, these are more like linebackerish type safeties, that could hit. Right, Nick? Wouldn't you agree
Yeah.
with that?
Cisco's a lot bigger than people anticipate, and I think he has been the best safety that I've seen since I've watched this team in camp. He's looked
Wow,
really good.
That's big. Okay.
It's big, but it's also a sad reflection on how bad the safety room has been in recent years. It hasn't been pretty, but he's picked off passes. He's been great in coverage, and he can hit. And it's going to be pretty exciting to see what he looks like on an NFL Sunday field.
Now, what is who's going to be the other safety? I mean, do you think? What's the other situation going to be like at the strong safety? What are you looking at there?
It's probably Tony Adams to start. The injury to Malachi Moore certainly doesn't help the situation for him. So I do think that it's going to be Adams and Cisco at least to start.
So we're going to see Adams again. I wasn't really crazy about Adams.
He's not bad.
Paul, were you crazy about Adams? What did you think about Adams?
Well, I
He
mean,
really had a down year last year. He was
Nick's
not
going to
good.
love this memory, obviously, but the Tony Adams play is the Week 6 Eagles interception on Jalen Hurts on third and
Okay,
long,
yeah.
and high stepping towards the end zone, and then the Jets beat the Eagles for the first time ever. But I thought Tony Adams had splash plays, but the problem is when you pair the splash play. Jim Boeheim said this once in town here. There's this player we used to have. His name was Torian Thompson, and he scored 10 points like instantaneously for Syracuse. And fans are going goo goo gaga, like, holy shit, look at this guy. And then he gave up 10 points on the other side. And Jim Boeheim said he's not worth dick in the press conference. I don't give a shit if he could score a cajillion points. If he gives up a cajillion points, he's worth nothing to me. So to translate a very weirdly specific local Syracuse angle to Tony Adams, like if he's making a bunch of plays, but he's giving up a bunch of plays, I think that's where we're losing it. So the consistency is what is missing there for me from Tony Adams. And I don't think he's a bad third safety. That's what he ends up being. At this point, he's a starter on the unofficial depth chart. So we'll see what happens.
I don't. Yeah, to me, his biggest deficiency, he was not a very good tackler. I mean, I saw him miss a lot of tackles. I saw him, trail. I never really see him come up with the big splash play on the tackling side. I mean, if you look at our defense, I don't remember. I mean, Michael Carter the third, he made some nice tackles. He was pretty consistent. But I saw a lot of receivers shred Adams, even when he had him in the grasp, and I was really disappointed with him.
Yeah, we'll see if they can change it. I want to do a quick follow up on Tony, and thanks for the call, Neil. A quick follow up on Tony there, Nick. He said the last coaching staff told us to be more disciplined and not do penalties. We just didn't listen, and I went like, "What?" So, what was your takeaway? What does that comment mean? I don't. I'm a little. Yeah.
It means a very old adage. Coaches get way too much of the credit and way too much of the blame. At the end of the day, coaches can only do so much. They can try to put their players in the best position to succeed. And if the players don't want to take advantage of it, then that's the case. Chuck Noll, when he was first brought in as the Pittsburgh Steelers head coach, there's a great story on this of the 74 America's Game documentary. I can't remember who said it, but it was the old linebacker that was with the team from 1969 through the early dynasty years. And he goes, Chuck Noll came in first meeting, and he goes, the reason why you guys are losing is not because you guys are bad players or bad, it's not because you're not working hard. It's not because of coaching. It's not because of any of this. We're losing because you suck. The players stink. This isn't to say that the Jets players suck, but it was kind of that reflection of if you don't have good players, you are not going to win. And it really is that simple. If Nick Sirianni is on a different team right now, does he have a winning percentage of 700? Probably not. And I love the guy, but probably not. When you have the players, you are successful. And that comes down to making sure that each player is accountable for his or her actions. And it's just that simple. If you are good, that means you're good and not committing penalties left and right. A big problem that the Jets have had is that their players are undisciplined. We can blame the coaches, we can blame this, we can blame that, but by and large, a coach cannot sit there on the field and tell the receiver, don't go off sides before the ball snaps. That's on the players as well. And I think that's kind of where Tony Adams was mentioning. Not to say that we didn't listen, it was just you weren't good because you were undisciplined, every single one of them. And it's just a matter of finding the solution going into 2025.
Let's finish up with a couple of rapid fire questions from the Peanut Gallery. Jets Worldwide. Question for Nick: if Armand Membu is costing us big plays, how short is his leash?
I don't know if the leash is short. I do think it's a lot shorter than Justin Fields. Let's just put it that way. Especially if this team is competitive and they're playing well, but Membu is in the mix, or he's really struggling. Maybe they give him a couple of weeks to sort of learn from the sidelines, kind of like that.
This isn't a question, more so a statement. Indy Jet says, BG, proud of Nick for posting some positive things about Fields. He's accused you of being the biggest Justin Fields hater of all time on the show.
I don't really know why. I'm telling you what I'm seeing, guys. It's just kind of that point. If he plays poorly, I will tell you he played poorly, and there are concerns. If if all these other issues come on, then yeah, he played well the last couple of days. I thought he played a lot better than the numbers show on Saturday.
Yeah, he defended him. Yeah.
Does that mean he's perfect and he's going to be the franchise quarterback? No, I don't know. We're not at that point yet.
Yeah. Fair enough. Let's go to another one here. I Believe in Freedom says on YouTube. Thank you, everybody, for the questions. We definitely need to get a receiver that could be a wide receiver, too. That was a problem in Chicago for Justin. Nick, you've been very adamant about your take on the wide receiver 2 debate this offseason, whether or not the Jets should go get some big, sexy name.
All right, listen, and this is kind of where, okay, it sounds like Nick's hating on Justin Fields. I'm not. He wasn't good in Chicago. It's not because he didn't have the receivers. It's not because he didn't have the running back or the offensive line. It's just that he wasn't a good quarterback, period. And it wasn't even close. He just wasn't a good quarterback. When you have a completion percentage of around 50% in the fourth quarter, that's not on a wide receiver 2. That's on the quarterback. So I look at where he was in Chicago. Do the Jets need a wide receiver 2? With a different quarterback? Yes. But he targets tight ends at like a 30% clip. He targets the number 1 receiver more than any others. Why the heck are you going to pay money for a guy that isn't going to get a lot of touches to begin with?
That's fair. Final question here. Joe Mike. Q for Nick. How's Arian Smith's hands been in camp? How many drops? And also, I want to add on to this that Zach Rosenblatt says, hey, how has Arian Smith's development been, Coach? He's like, oh, the guy that can't catch? The thing you guys are saying? How are you enjoying that sort of whatever word? I don't know what to use. Aggressive? Feisty? Playful? Whatever with the media. Yeah, perhaps, right? Maybe it's that, where there's just been this tete-a-tete between Aaron Glenn and the media, which has been sort of fun from the outside to observe, obviously Aaron Glenn is paying attention to a few things being said.
I mean, 100%. But for Arian Smith, it's been night and day. The drops aren't really a concern right now. The route running has been really great. He's outrunning the ball sometimes, where he's into his breaks faster than the ball is getting there. And that's not on him. That's on the quarterback. That quarterback needs to get the ball out earlier if you want to hit Arian Smith in stride. So I see a player that could very well be a key part of this offense later on in the year. Maybe they give him a few weeks to get acclimated to the NFL speed, but he is fast. He's athletic. He's been catching the football. He's a much better route runner than people anticipated coming out of college. He could be a very strong steal for this organization moving forward because he has looked very, very good.
All right, there you go. Nick, any plugs? Anything you got cooking this week?
It's got preseason preview time, baby. It's going to be great. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Nick, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you, pal.
Of course. Thanks, man.
There he is, Nick Faria, our Jets reporter from JetsXFactor.com. The unofficial depth chart is out and about. We have 500 people in the room. Like the video, hit subscribe. You guys can also check out our full column in the YouTube description down below. Hopefully, we'll reveal the food at some other point this week. You guys will see. We'll do another goal for tomorrow's show, I'm sure, and show you all about it. We'll be live again at 11 o'clock. We'll be talking about all kinds of world of sports. That'll be the Man Show with Boy Green Digital. That'll be coming up at 11 o'clock. And for you Survivor fans, at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, David Wright, Survivor icon, will be joining us live on the show at 1 o'clock. It'll be me, myself, and none other than our guy here on the program. So feel free to jump on that as well. So we have a couple more live shows coming up today. They won't all be Jets related. Again, Survivor related. Survivor icon David Wright will be joining us at 1 o'clock. We'll have another live show at 11 o'clock and all that jazz as well. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode, and we'll have more coming up later today. Take care.